You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, welcome back to Cards to the Moon. This is episode 81 and it is our Friday show. My name is Clark from 5 Card Guys on Instagram, and with me is Hyung of Integrity Sports Cards and John, who is Trade You at Recess. So off the top, just want to get your guys' thoughts on a new trading card business coming into the game, founded by Brian Lee and his co-founder. You might have heard of him. His name is Derek Jeter. So just for some context, the business is called Arena Club, I believe, which is essentially a platform where users can buy, sell, trade, and display their cards in their online showrooms. The physical cards themselves are locked in a vault, and a collector who uses this service can also have their cards authenticated by Arena Club, which they say is a faster and more transparent authentication and grading process via machine learning. So, in a nutshell, it's another buying, selling platform for cards, plus another vault service, plus another authenticator.
Sounds familiar.
And I think I don't know how many episodes we talked about different versions of this, but yeah, initial thoughts on Arena Club.
I don't know, because it seems like they had this idea for a long time, they said in that article. So it's like, it sounded like they kind of like just, rush to market. Like it's been a few years before we kind of started this. So they're kind of late to the game. If you think about, PWCC, all the other companies that are doing this. And I don't know exactly how it's going, but I think they're a little late to the game. But any alternative to eBay, I'm open to, so like we'll see where this goes, but I don't see it like gaining crazy steam or anything like that. I think if anything, it'll kind of just blow away, to be honest. Unfortunately, but I could be wrong.
Even with Jeter behind this?
You know what? I remember A-Rod was involved in something like that, but then you don't really hear about. I forgot what he was involved in. It had to do with sports cards, right?
His group was involved in trying to purchase Panini, I think.
Panini.
Right? It was Panini. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I don't know if look at Derek Jeter with the Miami Marlins. How did that go? Yeah, you know what I mean? It's just like, right. I don't know. It's just, I don't think, Hall of Fame people would necessarily, it would help their value if they did like something successful. From a business perspective,
right?
It could.
Yeah, right. It's a different game.
It's a different game. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I feel similar. I think the general sentiment is sort of too little, too late. I'm going to kind of expand on Hyung's point. I have a feeling the idea or the seed started quite a while ago, and the wheels probably started to really turn when the market for sports card got pretty darn hot in 2019, 2020. And I feel like they wanted to take their time with this to make sure that they don't rush to market and they do it properly. Unfortunately for them, the market took quite a turn since they've been doing this. And now that they're finally launching, it is unfortunately a too little too late situation. And they have, this is a massive uphill climb, because they have already a bunch of other companies that have kind of locked into the trading / vault space. And then they're trying to get into the grading space, which is already pretty entrenched with some big players, right? So
right.
I don't know. I don't feel too optimistic about it, but they got to really separate themselves somehow, and show people exactly why we should choose them over some of the mainstays, right? So uphill battle, kind of too little too late, but we'll see how good of a job they do.
Yeah, I hear your guys' thoughts. I don't know if it's too late. it's definitely late because there are other companies doing the vault service, and we've seen our share of authenticators. There's a new one. I talked to you, Hyung, about it in passing, and you haven't even heard about it. Like they were called Tag.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, I heard about that. Right.
The transparent, authentic. I don't even know what it stands for, but I'm sure it's an acronym for something. And
again, the 3-letter. Oh,
That's so true.
Got to stick with the three-letter acronyms. But so there's a lot of competition in that space, and I'm with you guys too. Jeter being behind it doesn't really mean anything, right? But I think the service or the platform that will win out is the one that provides the best like user interface. Like it's just the ease, of using it, and obviously people have to buy into their authentication process as well,
Right.
to get their market share, which is probably the more difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
But if it's really easy to just say buy your card, sell, vault it, and then their showroom, whatever that looks like, I'm not even sure if it's up yet. I might have to do some research after this show. But if the showroom is like, wow, this is kind of cool, you could see it like a virtual showroom. And then you can store your cards, and then it's easy to sell because there's a click of a button. Do you know what I mean? I could see a way for Arena Club to be successful, and then I think it will take time regardless because we are in a bear market.
Yeah.
But I think for us too, right? In a bear market, we're just trying to build as much as possible, be consistent with what we're trying to do in terms of provide value for our listeners and subscribers. If they do the same thing, take that same approach, I think there's a chance.
Yeah, and I think like you hit it on the nail. It's like more like long-term play because we don't know where and how technology is going to come into play even in the next 12 months, right? It could totally change, and that's what usually happens when markets shift with technology, with new technology, moving forward consistently. It could change kind of like the whole infrastructure of sports cards in general. I know like people are off the whole NFT train and stuff like that, but like this is the stuff we're talking about. We haven't even seen the potential yet of where it's to come. And from an investing standpoint, it makes a lot of sense to do all these all-inclusive kind of like, you could store it, you could grade it, you could, sell it, and then, you never touched it, but it's still from an investment perspective. It's no different than you selling your stocks or crypto, right? So,
sure.
I could see potential from it at the end of the day, but I just don't like, how the hobby is. This is the last thing we always see as a hobbyist. We're just like, let's stick to ripping packs, right? Like that's all we care about, right? So,
yeah, for sure. I think more people have to buy in general. I think more people need to come into the hobby to make some of these businesses even viable,
right,
for the short, mid, long term. While you're talking, I was just kind of looking at the Arena Club website, and I was looking into their showrooms. It's you could tell it's in the early stage. They got some influencers on it already, like Pac-Man and Mojo Sports. I guess they reached out to Bleaker Trading. I guess they reached out to those guys to kind of get the ball rolling. I'm not sure, why we didn't get the call, but that's cool, Jeter. We'll wait, I guess. But it looks like that's what they're trying to do, get some of the influencers in there to get it going. But we'll see, right? We'll see.
I don't think you're gonna get the call though, Clark, after they listen to us absolutely just bashing them or being pessimistic, at least not bashing them. Not being as optimistic, we'll say.
Cautiously optimistic, all right? So
right.
I'll still take Derek Jeter's call if he reaches out. All right, let's move on to our discussion today for this Friday episode. So I thought that with week 1 in the books of this year's NFL season, there are plenty of things I think we can overreact about. So just for fun, I'm going to go through a list of QBs, and just based on one game, right, after week 1, you have to decide right now if you're buying or dumping all their cards. All right, just a fun exercise. And yeah, there's plenty of overreaction going on in the sports card podcast world, especially with our American friends down south. But I thought we would play this game too. All right, first QB, Dak Prescott Unfortunately for Cowboys fans, he's out 6 to 8 weeks apparently with a thumb surgery. He did leave the game early, of course, with 0 touchdowns, 1 interceptions, 134 yards. So not the greatest showing. But what are you doing with Dak Prescott?
I'm selling. I'm selling.
You're pretty optimistic about
I was just
Dak.
saying Dak would have been a good opportunity had he come out the gates and done things, but this is totally the opposite of kind of like the worst case scenario for Dak. So for me, it's like I'm selling. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dumping for me too. I wasn't too high on Dak to start the season, anyways. This is like nail in the coffin. I think 6 to 8 weeks. That's just too long. If Dallas can't hold on to a playoff spot here when he comes back, it's an absolutely meaningless season. So it's definitely a dump.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be a dump sweep. I'm not going to belabor this point. All right, next quarterback, Mac Jones. He suffered a back injury, but it looks like he might play week 2 still, so it wasn't that serious. But he finished the game with 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and just 213 yards. Mac Jones.
For me, I'm a dump as well. Like I think his prices were high to begin with. So for me, he has to carry on that expectation. Although, I mean, he's still young, New England. So it's like there's going to be a fan base there, right? So I see the volatility in the hype if he does come flying back from his injury. So there is opportunity. But for me, we talked about this on previous episodes. He was high, in the off season with that, Don Russ, just even the paper Don Russ PSA 10s were astronomical. So I'm going to go dump, especially after this injury.
I'm a dump too. I was never high from the start on Mac Jones. Like you could see he could be a pretty solid quarterback in the league, but in terms of like star quality, all of that jazz, I mean, I didn't see anything special, so I didn't really understand the hype. So whatever, I think in this next 2 years, whatever hype is still left for me, I think I would take advantage and dump what you got and get out of Mac Jones completely.
Okay. I'm a dump as well. Like I actually was more optimistic when he first got drafted in 2021. Sure. He was the 15th overall. And, that was when, I think that was Trevor Lawrence that year, right? Like a lot of QBs went in the first 5 picks or so. And Mac Jones was kind of the guy, not forgotten, but he was,
right.
the 5th guy in line or something, right? But then, when the season started or the preseason started, like the Mac Jones hype was there from the very start. So I was off already, I was like, oh, if he's a sleeper, maybe, but there was no like sleeper status for Mac Jones.
Right.
People were just on him. And then, like you said, Hyung, like his prices went sky high. And I think it's still high for what he's done so far, other than playing under Bill Belichick, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I'm dumping as well. And, if his cards do go to a certain level, like I think it's probably more of a mid to long-term play. You know what I mean? So yeah, another dump sweep. All right, let's go on to Russell Wilson. A lot of football fans, a lot of football pundits thought he would just demolish his former team, Seattle, and it just didn't go that way. He lost 1 touchdown, but he did throw for 340 yards. Right. Russell Wilson, what are you doing with him?
I think he's a buy, to be honest. I think his prices are pretty cheap comparatively to what he's like done in his career, and especially compared to the young studs, Mm-hmm. So I think he's a buy in general. I think prices are pretty low for Russell Wilson. So yeah, I'm gonna say buy on some of his lower end stuff. Yeah, his higher end stuff I think is up there, but I think some of his lower end stuff is pretty cheap.
Yep.
Right. Well, I certainly got to double down on my Denver Broncos predictions. So I will say buy. Russell Wilson is the type of investment, like anybody that is searching for Russell Wilson isn't really picking the short-term game. Like he's not a part of that short-term game, like, the young quarterbacks out there. So people who are buying Russell Wilson are more thinking long-term. We're talking like Hall of Fame. We're talking maybe a surprise Super Bowl, all of that jazz, right? So for people that wanted to buy as painful as it was to watch him lose that game, this is probably good news because it probably tempered a bit of the pricing that is involved with Russell Wilson and probably gives you a bit of a better chance over the next little bit to get into a nice card. So there's a bit of silver lining here for Russell Wilson investors in that you didn't see that week one hype. Like that's what some of, right. we know who we're talking about when we're talking about week one hype. There are certain players that are, obviously, this is week one. Things can go to the moon, right? So that's probably the silver lining for people that were looking to get into Wilson is that you didn't get that week one explosion, so you have a good chance at getting something nice.
Okay, I hear you. I'm still dumping on Russell Wilson, and I think you're both right though. Like it's definitely more of a long-term play. Right. When it comes to football cards, I'm all short-term, trying to make that quick flip. That's why. Yeah. That's why I have a Herbert, like just expecting great things this season. And Russell Wilson, like, I don't see the volatility there, right? Yeah. Even with the new team, with the Broncos, like the only way I see his card spike is if John's right and Broncos go all the way to the Super Bowl, and that would definitely probably see a spike at that point. So I don't think that's going to happen, but I love Russell Wilson as a player, as a person. Seems like a stand-up guy, but in terms of the hobby, just not interested. So yeah. All right, let's move on to Joe Burrow. He lost against the Steelers, 2 touchdowns, but 4 interceptions, 338 yards.
I'm a dump.
Okay.
I just think a lot of his prices are inflated again. Like I said, he has to keep up what he's done last year. And if that's not met, I mean, his cards have a lot of way to go down. You know what I mean? So it's like, I mean, at the end of the day, he does have, the personality and the flash like we talked about. But like I said, you see it in every sports, even the Lucas, the Tatises, like it follows kind of like that same boat. Joe Burrow is now entering his kind of like that second year, third year in cards. And look at the history, if you look at, especially in graph form, you'll see very similar spikes, in the first 2 seasons. And then you see a huge, dip. So I think that's where we're going with this. No matter how well he plays, I don't think he's going to keep up with the standard that people are expecting him to. It happens to everyone, even Mahomes, right? So, I'm going to say dump for Joe Burrow.
Okay.
Same here. I have a feeling I'm just going to be following Hyung's opinion on all of these guys. Well, I mentioned Joe Burrow last week. Like Joe Burrow kind of reminded me of like Eli Manning, like the guy who gets it done when it counts. But during the season, this was the fear about Joe Burrow for me, right? So I'm going to his prices are still high, not as high as his on the other side, Justin Herbert. But I think there's still value that you can capture to sell. And I think it's a good time. And I think mid-season or towards the later end of the season, you could possibly get back into Joe Burrow if you want. But I would really say long-term Joe Burrow, sometime even next season, I think is a better chance for him. But yeah, for now, I think while his prices are still pretty high, there's a good opportunity to sell.
Right. You know where I'm going. I'm buying. If I'm hoping there's a dip after this first game, actually. But to be fair, I guess to what you guys are saying, if there's one guy I'm going to lose my money on, it's probably going to be Joe Burrow. There's a good chance. So I'm all in on Joe Burrow, knowing that the risk is I'll lose a lot of money potentially along the way. But like if you watch the highlights, like it was a tale of 2 halves. Like it came out really shaky, and then he seemed to like kind of, get things under his feet again in the second half. So again, overreaction, right? This is week 1.
Yeah. I swear, me and Clark literally switched positions from a year ago. I was like super aggressive, and then now I'm like super safe because obviously markets, right? But I guess Clark. Hey, I like it.
Totally,
I like it.
Totally.
Hanging out with him this past year. Just
I'm not saying there's not opportunity though. Like for sure, Burrow's a stud, right? We got burned on every stud. Soto, Tatis, Luca, Trey.
Yeah, I'm doubling down, man. All those guys you just mentioned. And, I think it also depends on your take on the Bengals, right? If you think they're an actual legit team, I think they're a legit team. That's part of the reason why, too, that I'm still all in on Burrow and, of course, Jamar Chase. I think that duo is ridiculous. Fair enough. All right, two more. Aaron Rodgers, he lost versus the Minnesota Vikings. 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, and only 195 yards.
I know where we're going with this.
Well, you know my take on Aaron Rodgers. He's a buy for me. Yeah, he's a buy for. Did you guys see the Barstool interview?
It was hilarious.
No. Freaking hilarious. Like,
so
I mean, I he's a buy after that. You gotta watch it, but he's a buy after that interview. I think the interview was fabulous, but I didn't know what was going on at first, to be honest. But then as I kept on watching, I was like, this is phenomenal. Yeah. This is phenomenal.
Wait, right? What happened in a nutshell?
It's just a different interview. We'll just say. Okay. You just have to watch it. And
I'll watch it after.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Aaron Rodgers' price is for what he's done. I mean, you look at what he's accomplished in his career. It's insane, right? And he's still playing. He's 39 years old. Still moving well. So I think he's left his legacy here, and his card prices never got love really in as a hobby. So I think long term or even short to long term. He's a buy, so I'm not looking for that short term flip anyways. So, I'm a buy with Rodgers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you know where I'm going with this. It's a buy as well. Hyung and I are obviously speaking towards the long term purchasers. That perspective. It's the exact same thing as Russell Wilson. It is the silver, as painful as it was to watch that. The silver lining is, if you were trying or thinking about getting to Aaron Rodgers, this is a perfect type of game. That week 1 overreaction, makes Aaron Rodgers card market stale. And that's exactly what you want if you want to get in on Rodgers. So I think it's a perfect time for those that are looking to invest in him long term. It's a great buy.
Yeah. I'm actually saying a buy as well. Like, I agree with you. He's pretty much cemented his status, his whole career. And, a lot of the commentators will say, if you looked at his previous years, he always starts off with a crappy first game for whatever reason. And then, everyone doubts him every year again. And then he's got this chip on his shoulder, and then he shows everyone, like he's still, top 3 quarterback in the league year after year. So I think it's, again, the same thing. He's going to dominate for the rest of the season, I'm sure, even without Devontae Adams. And if his prices dip at all, definitely a good buying opportunity. I feel like for a player like Rodgers, who's been around a while, people that have him are not going to dump him
right
now.
No way. They've already been with him for that many years. Now it's not time to sell.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Last one. Kyler Murray. He lost against the Chiefs. I mean, a lot of teams will lose against the Chiefs, but he threw 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, but only 193 yards.
Yeah, I'm a dump on Kyler Murray. Part of the hype was that he was a young rookie. It was all those hypes, and he's a guy that is, in my opinion, average to below average quarterback, right? So I don't think long term or short term you're going to see some crazy spikes in his prices. So I'm a dump.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Again, with Hyung, no surprise. Of this list that you presented, for me, Kyler Murray is the tough one, because I don't really know what to make of the kid. Like, I think of a lot of the guys on the list, he's shown flashes of brilliance, and you can see the talent. But for whatever reason, he's just not been able to make it up in a real, solid, consistent way. So it's tough. I'm gonna have to say dump, because I still think it's just a bit too risky to get into Kyler Murray. I'd rather just see him do really, really well, and even if the prices are a bit higher, I need a bit of confidence to know that I'm going to be spending money on you. So for now it's going to be a dump, but this was a tough one.
Yeah, it's going to be another dump sweep. I feel like the best time to really get into him or sell its peak was the beginning of last year, when the Arizona Cardinals were doing well. Looks like he was trending upwards, and then things fell off the second half. And then I don't think he's been able to get that momentum going. This certainly didn't help in week 1. And a lot of newer QBs in the game now, so a lot of attention's off him as well. Like, I don't know. I think he's got to win a Super Bowl for his values to spike again too. So I think it's a bit too late for Murray unless he really shows success on the field. Yep. So that's my list that I had for you guys. I just want to kind of mention, anyone that was worried about Mahomes. I know the three of us really weren't. And of course, week 1, 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Is it too late now to buy low on Mahomes, you think?
I'm gonna say his prices have some more room to drop.
Okay. I hope so.
I hope so too. But like it all depends. If he stays hot, at the beginning of the season, I don't think you'll see that dip. But I mean, if a game slips here and there, I think you could see kind of his prices go down a bit. I think it's still inflated in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, classic week one hype. Mahomes kind of took the prize. What a performance, man. If you guys watched the game, he just dissected the Arizona defense. Like it was like watching art. Oh, it was insane. Yeah. He just wanted to step out there and say, you know what? If you guys are doubting who I am as a quarterback, let me show you. Here, hold my beer. What a performance, man. So,
right.
I don't know if you guys, I haven't checked Mahomes' prices. I assume there was probably a bit of a bump. I'm going to agree with Hyung. I think if there's no point in FOMOing after week 1 for anybody, including Josh Allen, including Saquon Barkley, all of the studs after week 1. Don't fall for that week 1 trap. I think somewhere mid-season, let's say Mahomes doesn't do too well the next game. I mean, his prices could probably revert right back to what it was in week 3. So give it a bit of time. Especially Clark and I, we were interested in getting a Mahomes card. I think there's going to be another chance.
Aren't you glad you didn't buy 2 months ago? Or was it before where it just kept on going down? It's just like, okay, now.
But now I hear you, but like I'm kind of FOMOing right now. So I don't know.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Not yet.
I wish we bought 2 weeks ago. That would have been a good time because like I'm seeing some of the auctions for the Optic Hollow.
What's
it's going to end in a couple days. Right now it's at about almost 1900, so it's going to go over 2K.
Right. That last week, I think we were talking about it went under 2K, and that might have been kind of like the bottom.
Yeah.
Depends on how the first week went, right?
Right. I hope you're right.
But I think $1,500 is a reasonable price for the Hollow.
Yeah, that'd be.
I mean, if it goes down to $1,500, I think it's a pretty good buy. Yeah,
I agree.
It's an awesome card too. Yeah.
All right, we'll see. So yeah, week 1, again, a lot to overreact about, but we'll stay on top of the NFL season. So there's 60 more weeks to go plus playoffs. And we'll probably look at our picks from last week, and then even our takes from this episode, and we'll see how correct we were in the Super Bowl next February. But that wraps up today's Friday episode. Thanks again for all our listeners and subscribers. If you haven't already and you enjoyed the show, we appreciate you giving us 5 stars and a good review. And we'll see you again for a brand new episode on Tuesday. See you then. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.